Hello everybody, welcome back to Rule the Roost podcast. At times like this, I'd like to recall some words I once heard somewhere, I'm not sure, might be an old parable or something, but when you walk through the rain, hold your head up high, for your dreams be tossed and blown. I can't even remember how the words go. I've sort of ruined my own intro there, Oliver, but how are you doing, mate?
I'm very well, Jack. How are you?
I'm going to walk on through the rain.
Good. It's a good start. Bit painful, but okay.
How are you going to walk? Are you going to walk alone?
I usually do. It's getting company's quite difficult these days.
I've heard, national radio has heard about your rage walks after Tottenham games. Was there a rage walk after this one?
Yes, there was, although I am slightly calmer now. But I wasn't at the time.
This actually, talking about that, this is probably a good opportunity for you to air any dirty laundry the other way, seeing as it's so happily volunteered up about you. Any post-match habits of Rosa's that you care to shame her for now?
She was quite upset actually afterwards. She definitely stormed out the room, and kind of like folded when they scored the winner. So. There you go, Rosa. Have that.
Smash the gaff up. Well,
yeah.
That's what we'll.
Kids' toys taken to with a hammer.
I mean, I don't blame her though, mate. That was gutting. Like that felt to me. That felt so fucking cruel. It felt horrific to fight back in the manner that we did, and for that to just happen against them. It's always against them. Just how smug they are, all of it from, the fact that Jota should have been sent off to then his celebration, that kind of sitting down, and all of it. I just wanted to put a foot through the TV, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was. I mean, it's just hard to stomach, really, isn't it? I went mad when we equalised, and we had so many chances throughout the game and hit the post 3 times. But you still felt, actually, this is coming. I felt quite confident in a way. And then for it to just be snatched away in seconds was just devastating.
Oh, it's funny you said, because I was saying that to Shah as well as we were playing. I was like, I think when we got to 3-2 when Sonny did it, I was like, this is one of those afternoons. I think we're going to equalise here. I think we might actually even win it. I've just got this feeling that we might do it. And then when it went 3-3, Richarlison as well, the way it kind of just looped over Alisson, just going absolutely potty. And I've seen some people obviously I know the celebration police is a thing, but Spurs fans doing why is he taking his shirt off and doing the pigeon? It's like, do you watch football for, what do you watch it for?
Yeah.
Why? Oh, I wonder why Richarlison might celebrate like that at Anfield, his first Premier League goal of the season. I do wonder. Like, have a fucking day off. But is the lad cursed, mate? Is he? Because that is for him as well individually, for Tottenham, for the fans, for Mason, but for Richarlison, that is acutely cruel as well, right? What's happened? Because he looks like a mug now as well.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they showed him afterwards, didn't he? And he was just kind of smirking, smiling in disbelief after they'd scored. He must be thinking, what can I do? He must have wanted the ground to swallow him up. Is he cursed? We're cursed. So, by default, he must be, because he's joined this cursed club. And this fixture is the most cursed of all.
Oh, big time. Big time.
It doesn't matter how well we play. There's literally no point in playing well, because it doesn't matter whatever we do. I think, you've seen loads of videos going around beforehand, kind of retelling just the last few years of how we've managed to lose in the most spectacular fashion. I still haven't got over that Lo Celso miss when they were at ours a few years back, which was easier to score than miss, and obviously he still did it. And then you've just had the Alderweireld goal, The Sissoko miss, Son's had misses, Bergwijn, all
Bergwijn,
of
yeah,
it.
Dele Alli, I think as well, right? I think was there a
I mean,
miss?
it doesn't. It just seems that no matter what we do, we always just come away from this fixture with nothing. Especially up there, we've had a few draws at ours, but
Have you
we just
did you
can't.
see Adam Nathan was talking about it on Twitter saying the other thing that's so galling about this fixture is it's a game that we always play really well in. We
Yeah,
always tend to play really fucking well against Liverpool and just getting most occasions get nothing from it. It's such a fucking thankless, miserable game. It really is. Like I hate it. I hate it, and I really have you. I mean, even still, have you ever watched the Champions League final highlights back? Have you ever done that to yourself?
I've not in a single sitting. I've obviously seen it. It's cropped up a few times on your timeline and so on. So have caught glimpses, but I've not. And that's usually just the Sissoko handball. I literally can't even remember Origi's goal. I couldn't tell you what it was like because I've not seen it
It was, it
since.
was it was against again. It was against the run of play. Like this is the thing. Everybody talks about. Oh, the final was over. Whatever. Spurs didn't show up. We did though. We were from what I remember. I've watched it once. I felt like it was a kind of like therapy. You know, I was like, I cannot. After
Was it?
well, after that fucking final, I was in such a pit. I was genuinely. It really fucked me up. Because I like Pochettino. I was just like, we are going to win this. There's something. There's some sort of magic behind this run to the final that is so un-Tottenham. And so for all this fucking talk about his lemons and all this stuff, whether that's real or not, I don't know. But the fact that if he's even imparting this sense of belief that there's something otherworldly happening, and if the players can just get on board with it, and we saw all that, after Man City, them in the changing room, Poch doing the cojones and stuff. And I thought we're definitely going to win it, and I was just when we didn't, I just couldn't even compute it stupidly enough. I just naively was like, we are going to win this because we're in this position. We obviously didn't, and I was dwelling on it. I'm dwelling on it now, obviously, but I thought I'm going to revisit the final. I want to watch it. I want to lance the boil. I want to exercise the demon, and I did. And I was like, we actually created a lot of decent opportunities, and we were at them for most of the game. Yeah, okay, you might say the impetus wasn't there for them to chase it, but I still think we were the better team. And it's just, but still, isn't it? It's like that.
Yeah.
This, like you
It's
say,
just that.
oh god.
I'm alive to say there's a kind of DNA in a club. I don't really believe in that kind of mysticism, but it doesn't. It's games against Liverpool that really make me question my belief, just because, like you said, it doesn't matter what we do or how well we play. It's always the same. We should just forfeit the fixture. There's no fucking point.
It's funny,
Just
isn't
don't
it?
turn up. Have a weekend off.
And it's fitting, really, that we've played United and Liverpool because they're two similarly joyless fixtures, but we do just get the rub of it a little bit more often against United than we do with Liverpool. And it's interesting to see that in the same week that we've had that fight back against United, had a similar fight back against Liverpool, but there's still that cruel sting in the tail with the Liverpool game. It's just that whole thing of Jota, because I don't understand the debate around this. It was a fucking red card for Jota. It was as clear as
Is
day.
there actually any debate apart from a few kind of zealots and loons? I think I saw even Darren Bent saying, and he's no
He
cheerleader
hates
for
us,
us.
doesn't he? He detests
But even
us.
he's saying it's a red card, and if he's in your corner on this matter, then it's a red card. I don't understand it. I can see because obviously the ref was the other side, so he may not have seen kind of the full impact of it. But he obviously saw the foot was up high. I just don't understand why they haven't reviewed it. Or well, obviously they do review it, but I don't understand how they've reached that conclusion. I don't know if we've had a apology from Howard Webb. He's probably just got it in his drafts now. But it's mad. I mean, on what planet is that not a red card?
I don't get it. What's his name, the referee that we had for the Liverpool?
Oh God, I don't know.
We'll look it up now. Hang on. Liverpool Tottenham referee. Because He looks like. Yeah, okay. So
Is he the one with the really hairy arms?
Paul Tierney. I don't. I don't know if has he got hairy arms. Let's have a look. See on Google.
Is he?
Oh yeah, he does have quite hairy arms. You're right.
Yeah, and he shaved his head this year, and it took me a while to realise it was him.
Yeah. God, he has. He's got a
Yeah,
jumper on. He's got a woolly jumper on underneath his refereeing outfit. But he looks like. Do you know what he looks like? He looks like the lad at, when everybody suddenly turns like 13, 14 at school. You've got that one kid that's desperate to act like he's like 45 already. So dresses in like chinos and like a rugby top and things like that. More talk down to everybody around them like he's somehow older than them, but is still a kid. He's that
Already
guy.
got a John Lewis card, that sort of thing.
Yeah, he's that guy. To sort of wind it back a little bit, talking about Richarlison being cursed and everything. Where are you at with him, mate? Like big expensive signing. He's obviously not showed up, but are you extending him a bit of, benefit of the doubt? It's not been a great season. Conte's not really warmed to him at all or played him in any sort of position that resembles something that would suit his style of play.
I think I'm very positive on him. I know the goals haven't really come, but I think actually he's played quite well quite frequently when he has, especially when he's been in his position against United. I know it seemed like he was kind of falling over a lot, and he was causing them so many problems, and really helping us get up the pitch, and really kind of tussling with them. And a lot of our kind of good attacks were kind of going through him, and he was winning headers and stuff. He's a real nuisance, which isn't probably what I expected, although I know he's a bit of a shit house, but actually kind of quite physical and being able to kind of almost play like that back to goal number 9 role, that kind of allowed him to kind of flick on some headers to Kane and stuff and allow us to start some moves. So I think there's definitely green shoots there. Obviously now he's got his goal. He's starting to kind of get more minutes on the pitch as well. I think kind of towards the tail end of Conte, it was only like 10 minutes or at the end of stuff. You're not going to get any form if you're just playing there, and when you do play, you're not in your best position. So Big Mace has obviously given him a bit more license to do what he can do, and obviously he came on against Liverpool, and was we all had our hearts broken, but he was good then as well, and his touch looked really tight, looked really sharp. So yeah, I think kind of he's had a tough season, but it's been a tough season for the whole squad for a million and one reasons. So I think next year, hopefully, we'll be in a much more stable place, and we'll see more goals and kind of more good performances.
He seems like a good kid as well, doesn't he? That's a good kid. He's a good kid, but he does. He seems like a good lad,
Yeah, he's a top geezer. He does a lot of his charity work, which is obviously really nice. But he just seems someone who's quite honest and upfront. He's got a sense of humour. I don't think he takes himself too seriously. And also he's quite outwardly emotional. Obviously, we saw after was it Marseille when he scored, he was crying and stuff. Obviously, kind of tears of joy, and it was a big moment for him. But you don't see that very often. It's quite refreshing to have someone so kind of genuine. I think that's a lot of reasons why people really like Jack Grealish, for instance, because he's got that kind of air of authenticity about him, and he seems kind of what you see is what you get, and people really warm to that. And I think Richarlison's, although in a slightly different way, but got that element to him that makes him a really likeable bloke.
Breaking down the walls of toxic masculinity, one brick at a time, Oliver.
One brick at a time, one terrible tattoo at a time as well.
But I agree with basically everything you've said, mate. I don't know. I can't spend every single episode talking about Harry Kane leaving, but it's obviously something hanging over us at the moment.
Yeah,
I do feel like Richarlison was bought with one eye on that, though. So and when Kane does go, what I do like about Richarlison, people sort of dig him out for the shithousing and all this type of stuff. And I mean, again, let's not kind of weaponize this stuff, but when there's like active sexual offenders out there playing, and that's just kind of glossed over and ignored, the focus on people like Richarlison, because he did some keepy uppies on the pitch. Fuck off, man. Like, do you know what I mean? How he's branded as like this. I don't know if there's quite a few like couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke stuff about Richarlison after the fact his equaliser meant nothing. That can get in the fucking bin. Do you know what I mean? That's
I don't mind hearing that for the reason that it shows that he gets under their skin. He's in their mind.
Sure.
And if he's on the fans' minds, he's going to be on the players' minds too. And I think that means he's having an impact. If no one's talking about you, then what are you doing? You're not doing anything. But he's obviously getting up people's noses and
hated, adored, never ignored.
Exactly.
That's it. But my point was going to be that if somebody like Kane does go, I'm not saying Richarlison's going to come in and replace the goal threat of Harry Kane. I don't think anybody is ever going to do that. But what I think Richarlison does do well is knows how to play the game, the dark arts. Because Harry Kane is a master of the dark arts. We all know that, right? Like he's a fantastic footballer, but he knows how to draw fouls. He knows when to go down and how to go down. And I think Richarlison is similar to that. It's obviously highlighted more because Richarlison's South American and it's easy.
They've got it in them. It's their culture.
Precisely, right? But Gerrard, Kane, all of these lads, Lampard, they all like to take a fucking tumble when it's...
that's part of the game. And
of course it is.
And I think there are kind of Puritans that, detest that sort of thing. I love it. I mean, you hate it when it happens to you because it's so maddening, but it's being good at football. It's not just, the technical skills. There's the other elements of, managing a game. If you're under pressure and you can get it out to Kane and he can hold up and win a cheap free kick, you give time to reset, slow the game down a bit and move up the pitch. That's all key to kind of winning football matches. And I think if you don't have that, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
In what could have been a perfect day for Brazil's left wing, it was brought down by Brazil's right wing. Lucas Moura with an absolute suicide ball to just give the game to
What was he doing?
Well, what was he doing? Yeah, but what was he doing on the pitch, mate? What do we learn now? I do want to talk about Ryan Mason, but sort of shelve that for a bit. I do think there's a lot that's positive about what Ryan Mason's doing. However, things like that. What's he doing? What do we achieve from bringing Lucas Moura onto the pitch?
So I think I might be a bit against the grain on this one because obviously a lot of people have been discussing it.
Unlike me.
It was so late on in the game when he came on, and we were, he came on when we were still 3-2 down. I know Porro had a really good second half, but he might have just been looking to go, okay, what options have I got? Just one last push, mix things up a little bit, and just throw something on in an effort to get a goal. So I think there's logic behind it. Now, obviously, I'm sick of the sight of Moura. He's just a calamity, and he's just not been any good for so long. But I think he is a more naturally attacking player than Porro. And I think he was brought on to not play at right wing back. He was probably just to go get as high up the pitch as you possibly can and try and make something happen. And within like a minute of him coming on, basically, we'd equalised. So in some sense, you could say it was a masterstroke. But obviously, seconds later, he fucking ruined the whole day, didn't he? So I don't criticise it in the sense that we're not learning anything. I think it was just a kind of let's just try something to try and get that equaliser, and I don't think it was deeper than that really. I don't think he's going, maybe let's see how this works out. I think he was just trying to get that goal, and obviously you don't legislate for the fact that someone's going to try and fucking volley a fucking pass back to the goalkeeper from like the halfway line like a div. It's just thick, isn't it? He's just thick.
Just what is he? And he knew it. The thing is, this must be just a weakness in my nature. But as soon as I saw how dejected he was afterwards, I couldn't help but feel for him on a certain human level. I was just like,
fuck him. No,
I know. But I've got that. Like I say, I've got that weakness in me, that pappiness, where I just can just look at him and I just think, fuck, man. I feel for him in that instance.
I was
You know,
I was genuinely surprised. I suppose I'm not. They obviously know him, but I was like, when they all coming over to him and comforting him, I would have been like, "Don't even get on the fucking bus. You stay here."
yeah,
Um,
get the fucking National
it's
Express
because,
home.
yeah, I mean, there's no excuse for it. There's just no excuse
No,
for it.
it's
He
not.
should have just belted it up the pitch. He's trying to be too clever by half, and literally just undoes the whole team. He let his team down.
He did. He did.
And I can understand. Yeah, obviously that's going to be individually disappointing for him, but he fucking let everyone down. So I never want to see him again. But in terms of why he was on the pitch in the first place, there is a logic to it. And I think instead of throwing on, I can't really remember if Mundell was on the bench at all even. And I know there's been a bit of clamour for him. Um, but I think that's a big ask in a game of that size. You'd go for more just because he's got experience in big matches, and that's a big ask for a kid to make his debut when you're chasing the game.
Still
So
though, baptism of fire, mate. He does, and he looks. Have you any clip you see of that kid? He looks fucking unbelievable. I
he
hadn't even
does.
heard of him before this season, but like,
He loves finding those kind of bending in shots, doesn't he, around the keeper?
yeah.
From what I see on all the clips, but hopefully we are going to see players like Mundell and Devine. Um, Maybe now, actually, given that season's more or less over. I don't know how
I mean,
much.
Divine's like 19 now. He's not a kid. Do you know what I mean? Like, just fucking chuck him in. Literally everybody, even neutrals, have been going on about how fucking good Alfie Devine is. How he's going to be like one of England's star boys. Just give him a chance. This is the thing this is one of the things I find so
But 19 is
maddening.
still younger, and he looks still quite small, doesn't he?
He
He doesn't.
does, mate, but he sounds like he's got a bit of needle about him as well, though. Do you know what I
But you
mean?
remember, and I know it's not. I'm not saying that he's going to be that, but when Bale was that age, he was a bit spindly and wasn't. He was quite quick, but he wasn't the beast he was. Well, by the time he was
No,
like mid-20s, and maybe it's a case of you just need to. You've got all the technical ability, but you need to have the physical presence before you can really. Because he could just be walloped, couldn't he?
he could
Because he
be,
looks about 12. I know
but
he's 19, but he's got a real
But
baby face.
also, like, when our midfield net is as shit as it is, and it's as uncreative as it is, and you hear we've got this kind of young English Ericsson type player just sat there festering, getting annoyed because he's not getting opportunities as well. Just fucking give him a go. Just do it. Like, just fucking. I'm bored of cautious FC. I just want to be a bit more Tadaris to do. Just fucking let's have a go. Let's see some of these young players because that is, and I honestly, I will go against anybody that says otherwise. It's one of the most exciting things in football is just seeing like young players from the academy get a chance and
Oh
do
yes.
something.
Well,
Do you know what I mean?
it's it's the kind of unknown, isn't it? What
Yeah,
comes next in the story? It's the next chapter. It's the flash new thing and the kind of hidden talent, the expectation of the unknown, and all that sort of stuff. So, absolutely, and hopefully, he will get some chances. He's our club's youngest ever goal scorer, of course. So against the mighty Marine,
what was he about 13 and a half, wasn't he, when he scored that? I think?
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
had to get a letter from his mum to play.
He forgot his kit, so he had to play in pants and a vest. Yeah. Yeah. Oh dear. Speaking of Pedro Porro, you touched on him there, mate. I'm going to put this to you, and this is a particularly cruel question, and it's a completely pointless question as well because we do have an obligation to buy. But were it an option to buy, would you be taking them up on that £45 million, or would you be thinking, let's give Spence a go next year?
I mean, I don't know because I've not seen Spence play. No one has. He might be awful.
There is to do, Ollie.
Porro is a funny one because he looks a bit ropey in defence, but he does look quite good going forward, and he seems like he's got a bit of bite about him. When he scored against United, which is a really good finish, he's running down the side of the pitch that I was sat on, and he's just like to the crowd, kind of waving his arms in the air, trying to get the crowd going. And I think see a bit more of that, not in a kind of Højbjerg way, but like genuinely, come on, And he looked like he was really up for it, and I do get the impression he's quite a competitive character. So I've not been as cold on him as some have, but there's still obviously a few kind of question marks about how good he is, especially in the defensive side. And if we're going to be our next manager's more forward at the back oriented, then kind of where does he fit in and all that?
Do you know what I think gets me about it, mate? Is that because I do think he's. I mean, his finish against Manchester United was unbelievable. Like, it was a great goal, and he has got something exciting about him. He almost is a bit Aaron Lennon-y at times, especially when he's in his stride and the way he sort of goes at him. I think the thing that is just annoying about it, and he's definitely a victim of this season of Tottenham's kind of squad disarray and Antonio Conte, blah 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 blah, all those caveats. But it is still annoying, isn't it, that like we've signed another player for a large amount of money, and there's still just a load of what ifs about them. It's like, couldn't it just been good? You know, couldn't it just been like?
Can we just have one that slots in?
Right, you know, that it's not like, oh, maybe if that, or maybe if this, oh, but you've got to give him, you know, to be fair to, like, why can't he just be like, yeah, fuck, we spent good money on a good player, and he just looks fucking mint, you know? It is frustrating, isn't it? You know, and he's definitely getting some of the ire for just how bad this season has been, because we've signed him and he's supposed to sort of be one of the components to turn things around. And Antonio Conte's going to cook when he's got Pedro Porro playing for him. Did he? Fucking miserable. But
I mean, he has looked a lot better since Mace has taken over. And I think that's just because we're yeah. Part of that might be because we're not playing on the edge of our own box anymore, and we've decided to kind of move our players up into the opposition's half, where these players are a bit more effective, and you're not being asked to just kind of track your opponent for 90 minutes while having about 2 seconds of the ball for the whole game. And again, we're seeing certain players in general, all of a sudden they're passing the ball. They can move it quickly. Even Højbjerg, who, we can maybe discuss, he had a few moments where he thought, oh shit, he can actually do some stuff with football. He's not just this fucking scarecrow stood in the middle of the pitch, kind of waving his arms around and unable to pass the ball 5 feet.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've not changed the system, which I think is understandable, but it's all about the intent of how we're playing. And I know obviously we're still conceding a lot of goals, and I think that's not going to be sorted out anytime soon. But the intent of how we're approaching matches now is about moving the ball quickly, going up the pitch, trying to score goals, trying to actually keep possession and create chances, and not just wait for the opponent to make a mistake and seize on it. And so you kind of realise, yes, the formation, we've all got qualms about it. I don't like the two in midfield, but it still can work as an attacking setup. So it just makes you think, probably was Conte all along.
I mean, let's touch on that defence, mate, because the early stages of, I'll be honest, when it went to 3-0, I was like, this is another Newcastle. It's going to be another Newcastle again. The fact that the team managed to just cut through us, another team in the space of a week managed to cut through us in that fashion. 3-0 up in 15 minutes?
Yeah. I thought it was going to be, I honestly thought we'd lose by double figures. I thought the record defeat was on.
Like, after, because I was like, we've knocked on the door with it with Newcastle, and it's happening here now. Of course it's happening here after they've had a pretty shit season as well. I mean, that's in a professional sense, it's despicable. It really is. Like, there's no excuse for it at all. I mean, what has happened to Eric Dyer? I know he's never been like a worldie, but he showed for a while that he could be a solid, decent enough, dependable player. He's fucking all over the place, man. Like, and the thing is, I've caped for him a lot on here. I've stuck up for him in the past, But now I'm completely egg on my face about Eric Dyer. He's been an absolute fucking shambles for the past few weeks. Like in this game in particular, I just thought,
Well, all season really,
yeah,
I think.
just get him off the pitch, man. What's he fucking doing? And I understand. I really do understand the frustration. I'm normally a bit kind of like roll my eyes at the kind of like when people start kicking off about players getting new contracts and all this type of stuff, because I the way I look at it is it's like there's probably a lot more that goes on to all this type of stuff that people want to take into account. Homegrown quota, blah blah. Although Dyer doesn't even count for the homegrown quota, so whatever. I just, now I do think though, I'm like, as if we're giving this fella a new contract. It is so, even just in a sense of optics, and whether or not if I was being more rational about it, I think, oh, maybe he could be more of a squad player or something like that. He knows Tottenham, he's dependable, whatever. He seems like a player that's just totally coasting now because he knows that he has no real competition for his place at all, and it's. It is.
Do you think? I mean, you say that he's coasting. I think it's more of a case of the player just completely shot of confidence. I mean, the way in which until Conte and then Stellini, our whole kind of approach to games was don't make a mistake and wait for them to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And then they start making mistakes and they say, oh fuck, I've made a mistake, better not make it. And then it just kind of snowballs into the point that even like the most basic things, they're fucking up. Dyer has obviously got limitations, but he is making mistakes that he wouldn't be making in other circumstances. And I just feel, yes, he has been very poor. Yes, he should be benched. For who? I mean, look at our options. If we're going to stick with three at the back, is Sanchez going to be any better? Tanganga, I guess maybe you could have Longley and Davies, but they're not. Longley, I'm not sold on at all either.
No.
And obviously he is, a senior member of the team, and so it's probably not as easy to drop him as that. Although someone needs to have the kind of strength to do it. But I think it's more than, it's not just him coasting. I think he's just completely, and all of them, they're just fucking so ingrained into trying not to make mistakes that it's going to take a while to iron all that out.
That's probably
we
fair.
need to be in a situation where it's not like, do you remember in Curb Your Enthusiasm, that bit where it's like, don't be afraid to make a mistake, and then he hangs the picture up on the wall with the kind of like meme. And it falls down, and then you go fucking hell, and you go, oh, I guess it works. But the idea being that we do need to have the scope for players to make mistakes, because if you want to play on the front foot, if you want to play expansive football, you're going to make mistakes because you're going to be playing a riskier game, and we have to have that element of risk, permitted, and not something that's going to hold you back.
I totally agree, but do you not think we're now at a place with somebody like Eric Dyer in particular, where we've seen the mistakes time and time again, that when it happens again, it's just it has a corrosive effect on somebody like him and probably the players around him. We saw remember in the All or Nothing, Dele Alli was like calling out Eric Dyer and didn't really want to name him as, and it wound up Eric Dyer. You remember that bit in particular? When
I do.
Dyer's like, name names, because he knows he's talking about him, right, when he's talking about shit defensive mistakes and stuff. I just wonder if now, like, I think I've arrived at this place with Dyer, and I'm like, he should probably just go to somewhere like Crystal Palace and look really good for them. Remember, like, when like somebody like, I don't know, John O'Shea left Manchester United and basically walks into any other Premier League team and looks like a really dependable, decent defender, because there isn't as much emphasis on every single minutiae of every single thing that they do. They are allowed that freedom to make a few more mistakes. There is less pressure on playing for fucking... There's a different type of pressure, don't get me wrong. I'm not as, as blind to that. I'm not saying that, everything... Do you know what I mean? There's a certain lens upon teams when you get higher up the pyramid that just...
Well, you have less scope for errors, don't you?
Of course.
You're going to be expected to lose games at Sunderland. It's about having someone there to win you enough to stay up. But obviously, if you lose 3-4 games in the Premier League, could be your title over. And obviously, where United were at the time with John O'Shea, that wasn't something you can live with.
Where Dyer,
I do. I think Dyer should go.
Burnley
I think,
come up, they spend a bit of money on him. He has a bit of time working under Vincent Kompany. Probably have a laugh up there. Do you know what I mean? Like it just feels like it's run its course now at Tottenham. But I don't think it will have done because by all accounts he has signed a new contract. I don't know if you've seen that going around on Twitter. It seems to be the conspiracy is that we don't want to announce it yet because everyone will be unhappy about it. But
I mean, there are, like, and you touched on it, there are probably reasons beyond football, as is often the way with our club, for that. I think signing a new contract isn't a blocker to anyone being sold. And I think there should be not just Eric Dyer, but a lot of departures this year, because we do have. It's not a case of it just being stale. It's just players that have become. Yeah, I guess it is being stale, and you do just have to refresh your squad. You can't just have the same people around for so long, kind of being prominent members of the team, especially the ones that don't contribute overwhelmingly in a positive way. It's different for someone like Son or Kane that even in bad seasons they're still pulling their weight. Right. Whereas you've got players now like Sanchez and Dyer,
Lloris.
Probably Lloris. I mean, I think Lloris is just going to retire at the end of the season.
Do you think he'll go down for a nice payday in south of France or something?
I mean, yeah, maybe. I suppose that there is that. I mean,
is it Nice? He's got club?
I don't know. I've never been. Is it nice?
I think that's his club. I think is it Lloris? I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? But I wanted to say as well, Romero, because we're talking about selling players. Where are you at? Where are you at with him, mate? Because I'm
absolutely not. I don't even know why people were thinking this.
Look, all right. Let me.
That's just. He's obviously head and shoulders our best defender.
He is,
and yes, he is erratic. But you don't get rid of a player of that quality just because the season's gone badly.
But do you think?
And there are loads of reasons.
But it's not just that though. Like, can you really build with a player? Because I understand this whole argument. If he's got a great team around him, sure. But we're not going to have a great team for some time, I don't think. I'm not saying it's one of these, it's never happening. Oh, I'm not falling into all that bullshit. But to me, it's going to be 2-3 seasons. If we chart Arsenal to where they are now, that's been, 3 seasons of building. So I would say we're at least that kind of distance off now from being a kind of proper, what we were a few years ago, being a proper decent team again. And I'm in this kind of place with Romero where I'm like, this immaturity that he displays constantly, and it is constant, mate, especially now, since the chips have been down, he's lost his fucking arse. He really has done. Like, he has not been dependable at all. And people can say all they want about, he was good against Manchester United. He wasn't, though. He was good when the team started playing well again. Like, he's never at the fulcrum of that. He just isn't. And there is that part of me that questions whether or not we can build something stable and sustainable with somebody like that who is so partial to just wobbling in the way that he does. Whereas maybe if we can sell him on to somewhere, get some decent money, buy 2 maybe not as good defenders. I'm not debating Romero's ceiling. Romero in that World Cup final was absolutely phenomenal. He was unbelievable. But we haven't seen that player at all at Tottenham, really.
We haven't seen him this season. I think we haven't seen it from a lot of players. My view on it is that when you have things going badly, and they have gone badly, and the atmosphere around the club has been so toxic, you just bring out the worst aspects in each player. Now, in case of Romero, I think that comes out as petulance and unprofessionalism. In other players, it just means they hide.
Yeah.
And they just become a shell of themselves. And I believe that's more of a case here, because he has got such a high ceiling. We've seen how good a defender he can be. I just don't think we should be in the business of selling our best players when we don't need to. I believe he could form a, if we get someone else instead of Dyer in, he could be phenomenal. And he reminds me, I was thinking about, he does remind me a lot of Alderweireld. Not obviously Alderweireld was a bit more composed and wasn't rash, but he was probably a bit older when we signed him. I could be wrong on that, but he obviously came into a team that had Vertonghen, and they formed, had a nice kind of partnership. And I just think if we can manage to get him his Vertonghen, he could be just superb.
Let's hope so. And I mean, I think the one thing I do want to say here is I'm not in a rush to sell him. I'm not kind
It
of.
sounds like you are.
There's a lot of people I'd sooner get out the door than him. But I'm also I'd say I'm firmly in the place now where if it was suddenly Real Madrid want to buy Christian Romero for £60 million this summer, I'd be like, okay. I wouldn't be devastated about the prospect of it. I wouldn't be.
Right. I would. I would be really disappointed to see him go because I think he could be, the kind of spine of what a future good Tottenham team is if it ever comes. But I'd definitely be part of it.
You're never coming on my pod again, mate. You can't come in here, right? Start mugging me off, yeah? It's not how this
Do it
works.
elsewhere.
It's not how this works.
Sorry.
I tell you what, let's stop fucking ragging on our own team anyway. I want to. There's somebody in particular who I want to have a go at. Jurgen Klopp. What an utterly despicable individual he was that afternoon. I felt like I do think if the sting of the Tottenham Liverpool game out of it, I think probably generally speaking, Klopp is probably a decent enough bloke as a person. I think he's kind of, for whatever the expression the right side of history means, I think he's probably generally on that. But when he's not at it, when the monster in him comes out, it's some fucking monster. And he was despicable.
He's just a graceless bellend, isn't he?
He
just can't behave himself
in the fourth official's face, all that shit. And the other thing is as well, after all the Liverpool fans have been squealing the past few weeks about Pep Guardiola celebrating in Simicast's face, they're all now like, oh no, well apparently the fourth official was rude to Klopp. Fuck off, man! Fuck off!
Give it a rest.
And the fact that he has the temerity to tell Ryan Mason of all people to worry about something else other than fucking.
The thing about that is that,
on,
exactly. I mean, that is absolutely bang out of order because, of course, he's going to be worried about head injuries. I mean, football in general is really shocking when it comes to head injuries and how it reacts to them and how players are allowed to effectively sub themselves on even though they look absolutely screwed. Was it the Southampton game? I think it might have been even against Arsenal. I might be wrong on that. And I think Bednarek took a blow to the head and they subbed him off and he looked furious. And I thought, that's probably like the first time I've ever seen that happen. That, a blow to the head, a concussion sub almost, has been used. And I think, given how many head injuries we get, and Mason's career, it was ended, from one.
His life was nearly ended,
Yeah, just be a bit more, just behave yourself. And the reason I think Klopp has come out and said all this shit is because he realises that, although they've won that game, he's seen a lot of problems with that team, hasn't he? Ryan Mason's tricky lily whites nearly got a point. And that would have been fucking humiliating.
Yeah, they're shite, and United are shite as well. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't. Again, I'm not doing this whole self-flagellating pity party Tottenham thing, but we're not that good at the moment at all. And the fact that we've managed to sort of fight back in that fashion against both of those is not good for them at all. So this is part of the thing for me though. All this talk about Harry Kane going to Manchester United. I wouldn't be so sure about doing that, mate. To be honest, if you want to, if in the context of right, if you want to win a Carabao Cup, crack on, right? But you think that's gonna kind of quieten those voices in the dead of night that are wondering why you haven't won a Premier League or a Champions League? So you ain't gonna fucking win that at Manchester United. You're just not.
Ten Hag's a bottler as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he did it against us. See him against Sevilla the other week. Bottled that.
He's got that bottle gene
They,
in him, doesn't he?
well, you know, they lost 7-0 at Anfield.
Yeah.
You know, that's not. Yes, they've been a bit more consistent than us this season. That's not exactly fucking
But that's
hard.
barely spoken about, is it? Like, really? The fact United got turned over 7-0 at Anfield, like, it's disgraceful. But there's
Yeah,
still all this kind of, Ten Hag's building something really positive there. Great, and we heard all that before. What was the other name of that lanky twat at Southampton that kept getting beaten 9-0 that people wanted us to have as our manager? You know, that sort of Poundland Klopp.
the
What's his name?
Hasenhüttl.
Yeah, you know, like it's that similar sort of thing of like, oh yeah, he's really good, other than the times he's getting absolutely battered and doesn't know how to do anything about it. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, you know. Like, I don't know. Let's talk about our manager then, Ryan Mason's tricky lily whites, because look, I said it in the post match thing. I was like, there is something there, but the overriding feeling at the moment is grief. It's pain. It's horrible to see the team lose in that way. However, the fact that we managed to muster that comeback at Anfield and play the way that we did in that second half, and also against Manchester United, albeit on our on our home ground, we should have beaten Man United as well. That's a big positive for Mason, man. Like, I know he's not fashionable. People don't really like the idea of him being in charge, but you've got to hand it to the lad. Look at what fucking Frank Lampard's doing at Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? If we're going to pretend like it's all easy, that Mason hasn't had any impact whatsoever, just look at Chelsea. You know, I'm not. I don't know. Team Mace, mate, is sort of growing on me. It is growing on me a bit.
I'm in the same camp. I'd like to see Nagelsmann because I think he is a stellar coach that is young enough and ideas are relevant enough and would be quite a good fit for us. But if Big Mace gets it, I'm more than happy with that. The way he spoke about us after the Liverpool game, it really made me feel a lot better actually.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I want from my manager. He was out there fighting for us, you know, not making excuses or, you know, he made these comments to Five Live or whatever it was about the red card and how he didn't understand it. He wasn't understand, and like he's actually fighting for us. Someone that cared about the club, and you can kind of get a feeling that this matters to him, and he is not satisfied with Tottenham being a joke. I think he takes that personally, as the meme goes. And I do believe if he were to get the job, he would give everything and it would matter to him. And that sort of enthusiasm for Tottenham would rub off on the players. It is obviously a risky one because he's so inexperienced.
They're all risky though, aren't they? Now
they're all risky,
you know?
And maybe it's a bold move, and it could be one that sets us off on a lovely journey. Tom Foynes, a friend of ours. We're in a group chat. I put those Ryan Mason comments in. He says, "I really like this, but why is he not slagging the players off?" Which really made me giggle. But yeah, just if we can't get Nagelsmann, then just give it to Mason instead of going for this Arnie Slot fella or some whoever, some Bundesliga, was it Glasner we've been linked with.
No.
Or worse, even Brendan Rodgers. Don't go for any of those mugs. Just give it to Mason. See what happens. Because he's a person that actually is a proper Tottenham lad. He loves the club. He wants it to do well. He is affronted when people seem to take the piss. That we're considered a joke. He won't stand for that, and he might be the next best thing. Who knows?
Well, that's it. Because I mean, do you think people are a bit too quick to? Because I have seen a lot of people don't even want to entertain this discussion, right? A lot of them are this kind of, oh, well, no, it can't be Ryan Mason, but why not? Like, this is kind of what I put back to that is, why not? Okay, he's not experienced or anything like that, but there are still a lot of red flags over Nagelsmann. There just are. It doesn't matter if he's managed Bayern Munich or he's done a good job previously. Like, there are red flags over him. There are. You just because you want Nagelsmann in, not you in particular, just because one wants Nagelsmann in, and there's this kind of, I guess, a blue chip like quality about him. Doesn't mean it's going to work out though. You know, I don't really understand why we think we're above the idea of hiring somebody from within. It's worked for years for teams like Ajax and Barcelona. You know,
And exactly, it's always fine for Barcelona. And Mason's also had quite a good education. Well, I mean, whatever we think of Poch and Mourinho and Conte, they're obviously very experienced, high caliber coaches, and he's worked alongside all three of them. Not many people can have said to have done that. So he's obviously going to have learned a few things off those guys. Hopefully, not what to do in the latter two, and maybe even all three, and not what to do in being a turncoat. But he's had a good grounding. He's shown himself to be quite innovative, and take over a team that. Bearing in mind, we'd lost 6-1. Like the game beforehand, and he's given. Nobody expected us to do anything against United. Really, I think a lot of people just thought we were going to get thumped. I offered you a ticket, and you said no, because I think you were pretty much of that school of thought. But we showed a bit of fight, and we showed a different tactical approach. So he is obviously instilling some ideas. You can't turn the ship around overnight. There are like deep-rooted problems, but he is addressing some of them immediately. And as far as kind of dress rehearsals for a permanent job, he's doing a pretty good job in my eyes. So
let's be. It's not going to be him though, is it? Let's be honest. Like it
won't be, because it is a massive risk because of the experience side of things. I would like to see us take that risk though, if we can't get Nagelsmann, because I don't see the value in bringing someone else in who maybe doesn't have that affection for the club, doesn't have the kind of love for the club, or the understanding of the players.
We need that again now, right, mate? We've had.
We need some healing.
I mean, Mourinho, I don't think was as bad as people made out, but Conte certainly fucking was. But either way, the pair of them didn't really have a lot of love for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and I don't want another fucking coach that just throws us under the fucking bus again as soon as it doesn't work out for them, because that's all that Antonio Conte's fucking done. I won't accept otherwise. Like, guy was an arsehole, and I'm just very glad he's out of the club. But I don't.
He's just quite unpleasant, actually, doesn't he?
Yeah,
really.
I just don't want that again. I don't want.
I don't know how true it is, but someone was telling me that he refused to come back. That's why he was sacked in the end, because he effectively. I don't know how true that is, but someone was telling me that's why it all ended, because he just wasn't saying, I'm not coming back to London.
He just seems like, from a lot of the stuff I've heard, like the Athletic have reported on and everything, that he just sounds like he's a generally unpleasant, kind of person around the club. And I don't think he ever wanted to be here, really, did he? He probably just got offered a good wage and thought, fuck, I haven't got another job. I'm going to start getting rusty, actually, if I don't take this. And we saw his end game always was going to be, whoa, what am I supposed to do? Look at this club. It's a fucking mess, Yeah. And it's just...
And I'm sick of that, actually, because there's never any sense of responsibility.
No.
And, if something went wrong, if we had a bad result under Mason, he would accept responsibility. That's just the type of character he is. Sure, he'd probably in private to his players say, what the hell was that, or whatever. But he would front it up and say, I made a mistake. And I don't want someone coming out every week saying, it's my fault, because that's not a good look. Because it means, one, you're losing a lot of games. But it's just this kind of, this whole idea that Conte somehow wasn't part of the failure of his team.
Yeah.
Like, as if it was completely out of his control. It's like, mate, you're the fucking manager. You're the ones that are coaching these guys. Like, do you not think you've had a part to play? Because it sounds like you don't. And if you don't, what the hell have you been doing?
Yeah. And that's what I think, though. When I've been watching this for the past few games, great fight back and everything, but that's been, let's be honest, that's been mostly about just spirit. That's been about people digging deep. When you actually look at a lot of the players at the moment, I'm just thinking, what the fuck have they been doing for the past few years now? They just they don't look like footballers a lot of the time. You know, they're just sort of knocking a ball about in just so uncleanly and just without purpose. We're just so ugly to watch. And that shit falls down to the coaching. It really does.
Sometimes I watch teams like Brighton. I think it's like they're playing a different sport.
Right?
The way they move the ball quickly. There's players. You're kind of like, oh my god, you can pass like that. How did you see that? And just like, we don't do anything like that. It's so kind of routine and direct, and there's never a great surprise. There's never any flair to us. I think that's the big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even with players like Son and Kane, it's still quite, they're obviously brilliant players and they're capable of it. And Son's obviously scores some amazing finishes, but there's never a really kind of incisive pass or a player kind of flicking it around the corner in a quick 1-2 and we're through. It's very much just blunt and direct and clinical in the finishing, obviously, but it's kind of sexless. It's just so like, it is boring.
Oh dear. I don't want to. I'm not going to let you go without asking you, because at the time of recording.
Yes, I listened to BYOB. It's brilliant. Part of the Husseyverse. Yes.
Well, yeah, that's a nice plug for it as well. Bring Your Own Blockbuster podcast. I was going to ask you, because it's the day of the, as you call it, and I think it's the perfect name for it, the Kumbaya Derby. Any chance that Chelsea put up any sort of a fight for Arsenal, or is it the usual rollover?
No, they'll come out with slippers on. Honestly, there's absolutely no chance.
Do you know what, mate? To be fair to you,
it'd be very fucking funny actually,
course,
for the one time they actually get a result against them when we'd like them to.
To be fair to you, when I've been losing my arse all season about Arsenal winning the league, you've always been there saying they're not going to win. They're not going to win the league. They're not going to win the league. I've still just got that awful feeling, mate. As this season has been disgusting. You know?
This is all we've got left now, isn't it?
They might do it, but I'm completely a Manchester City fan to the end of the season, right?
Yeah. True blue and all that.
Are they bottling it though, mate?
Of course they are. What else could you call? I mean, you can take into the City result and the Liverpool result. That can happen. You can't say they're not bottling it, fucking, when they're throwing away, getting draws at home to Southampton when they're top of the fucking league. That's because you've lost your arse.
Drawing at
That's
West
not because
Ham.
Southampton are some fucking wonderful side. They're bottom of the league. We should know. We're fucking shit and we drew with them.
I'll show you what Southampton's form is. Southampton's form for the last 5: loss, draw, loss. You know, that tells you all you need to know, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So it would be so funny tonight, though, isn't it? Especially like Frank Lampard, like getting his like 1 win in 20 or whatever it is, and it's against them, and it like completely torpedoes them. But if they lose tonight, I'm going out. I think that's
hitting
it.
the town with a bag of cans.
Keep the blue flag flying high and all that. I'll be
voting Tory at the the locals at the general election. All of it. Well, you'd be doing that anyway, won't you, mate?
Yeah, I was going to say we discussed that.
I just wanted to end on, mate, because you're often quick to say that you are, you get annoyed about Tottenham, but you are hopeful. Where do you want to see? Where do you want to see the club go next season, and where do you think we're capable of going from what we've seen? Mason, in the space of a couple of games, it's not right yet. It's not perfect, but we do look like a different type of animal already, right? So, what do you think is possible for Tottenham?
It really depends on what the hierarchy decide to do. If there is a clear out of all the players that have been here too long, and we bring in some kind of exciting fresh talent, or just rejuvenate the squad a great deal, it could be really exciting. Now that doesn't mean we're going to get top 4. I think that's probably going to be well out of our reach for at least another season. But we can set ourselves on the path, and if we can get on that path, there's lots of reasons to get really excited again, because you can see, the embryo of something forming. So if we do that, I think we could have a real kind of palate cleanser of a season next year, and actually get really behind it and enjoy ourselves again. Even though there'll be some ups and downs, if we start playing some good football and see some new talent, I think everyone will be pretty happy. And obviously, if we fail to do that and we just kind of insist on trying to squeeze something that's bone dry, we'll just have more of the same, unfortunately. So I'm hopeful that lessons have been learned, and it seems like the club's making kind of noises that things have got to change. And I don't know if this Scott Munn's got anything about him, but there's obviously going to be a shake-up of director of football and all that, new manager probably. So there will be some movement in that front, I'd imagine. So hopefully they make the right calls and we start moving in a positive direction.